Welcome to the next move in Conveyancing Podcast. I'm your host, Kev Tunnicliffe, and we'll be discussing all things property and legal. Let's get into today's episode. Welcome to the latest podcast, viewers. This time it's the turn of a mortgage broker. We've had estate agent, we've had solicitor. We think it's only fair that we get the perception of a broker, and I'm delighted to say hello to Rachel Geddes. How are you doing today, Rach? It's been a few weeks since we spoke.
It has, yes. I'm really good. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here today. It's great to be able to speak about the broker's perception here.
Brilliant. So for the listeners, tell us about the role that you're doing at MAB. Mm-hmm. I understand that you're still doing a little bit of advice yourself as well.
I am, yes.
So hopefully we can get a little bit of insight and knowledge about your side of the market and what you think is going on with conveyancing at the minute.
Absolutely. So I kind of wear three hats. So I joined MAB officially in-house over 14 months ago as their Strategic Lender Relationship Director. But I've also been a broker for the last 20 years. And like you say, I still dabble in that side of things. And I've run my own brokerage for the last 10 years in London. So I look at it from what a broker's needing, a firm's needing, and also what group's doing to support that, but also what group's bigger picture is, working with lenders, all of our third parties, just to look at the whole processes and kind of re-question what we're doing, purchase, remortgage and everything else. Why is it still the way it is?
Brilliant, because I mean at the minute there seems to be a bit of groundswell of the industry starting at long last to work together.
Yes.
I know we've had a few conversations about what lenders can do. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I've mentioned to you, we'll probably cover off in a bit about Project 28.
Yes.
And that seems to be a bit of an industry collaboration. And there's a few of those going on at the minute. So
yeah, it's really nice to actually see that, because we've probably as an industry sat in silos for too long, and we've all been trying to get to the same goals, but working in our own directions, which means we hit different blockers. We then maybe arrange or agree things that don't actually work for everybody in the industry, so it works so far but then stops. Where actually, like say Project 28, which we could come on to, it's actually every area of the market looking at how do we solve this problem. And it's not a problem that's just started either. This has been around for decades now.
Since you started and since I started before that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
so it's great to see that actually not only is everyone working together, but we're actually seeing progression on it.
Okay, so we want to cover off a few bits. Firstly, really about the industry, and if we look at that from both a conveyancer's perspective and a broker's perspective, what's your overall view of the industry at the minute? The things that are working well and the things that aren't working so well.
So there's probably a few different angles. So if I just take the industry as a whole from a mortgage perception, we've seen some really good changes with regulatory changes coming in, relaxing things and making it a bit more open for lenders, for brokers to actually be working together to find solutions. So from an industry side of things, taking out the last 8 weeks, it's been a very positive market. When you then start putting the processes together, I would say there's friction. There's the assumption of the time it's going to take, how complicated things are. We talk about technology, digital journeys, AI all the time, but the process of buying a property or remortgaging has kind of stayed very similar for the last 20, 30 years, and it's actually taking longer. If you think we go back a few years, actually you could complete a house transaction in 6 to 8 weeks quite comfortably. The stats are saying it's anything between 24 and 26 weeks for a standard house purchase to go through. Remortgage, that used to be a very quick process. We brought in product transfers, which was great, a new market. However, then the remortgage process is pushed out to anything between 12 and 14 weeks. So the broker's job has become very, very difficult and very different, where they've got more options, more lenders, more scope, but everything takes longer. And they are still doing the same job with more work and things taking a longer time as well. So I think
frustration.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's interesting there you say about the relaxation, and I'm assuming you're meaning from the broker side there, because I think far from relaxing anything from the conveyancing side, it's got worse. But that's probably I keep saying it's post-COVID. It's without a shadow of a doubt got worse.
Oh yeah.
Since the pandemic, and even obviously we've got next month the tax status of a conveyancer, which. It's certainly not. It's not a relaxing time. Nobody really seems to understand. Do we have to give tax advice? Don't we? Do we just have to register as a tax advisor so we can submit the forms? And therefore, from the broker side, are they saying, well, the tax side of it is purely down to the solicitor now? It just seems that everything gets pushed back to the solicitor.
Absolutely.
Source of wealth, and stop me in my tracks if I'm wrong on this. But you have the agent who's got a proof deposit that's sat in a bank account. You've then got the broker who's got the next level up for source of wealth, and then it goes to the solicitor, who has to go even deeper. And I think there's probably an educational piece, without a doubt.
Definitely.
Just on that side of it.
You've got awareness and education, because we're talking about the changes that are coming in May. How many people listening to this are actually aware of those changes that are coming down the line? Because that's where, as an industry, we probably haven't been great as actually communicating together what's changing, when's it changing, what's that impact for every role. And again, because it then becomes, well, it is the solicitor, because you're doing the funds checks. Usually it's the solicitors that would pay the stamp duty and so on. It's the historical way of doing it. So again, it's awareness, but also education, because talking about like the proofs of wealth, if you think, like you said, the agent does it for a purchase, the broker does it, the lender will do it in a lot of cases, or take the broker's checks already, and then it comes over to solicitor to do even further checks. Add in, it's a new build, there's even more checks done from the developer stage as well. The client's got to go through the same process 4 times. Same
with ID.
For the exact same thing. And that's where actually, as an industry, yes, the regulator's probably working a bit more on the mortgage and the lending side. We're trying to be a bit more flexible, which is great. And that's happened because as an industry, there's been maybe more collaboration on the lender broker side. And now with Project 28 and the conversations we're having, actually bringing brokers and the legal arm together to say, this is the problems, this is what's causing the delays. However, these are solutions we can consider, actually help, because at the end of all of it, there is a consumer who is doing their biggest financial commitment. It's their home, it's their investment property. This is a huge process that they're going through. It's a massive strain, but it is their home.
But they're also relying on all the professionals that they're dealing with.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the thing, and that's the key bit. Everyone's professional, and they all have a professional responsibility in this. So it's one of those, is actually looking for solutions versus, like you say, passing it down the line. How do we change that? What can we do where actually in certain areas, certain professionals are responsible for certain areas, but we help each other to get to that end goal quicker?
It's the way the market's got to go. I mean, on that front, if that's the case, and obviously the perception out there is that it doesn't work at the minute, do you think, and with MAB and your own brokerage, are you finding customers are holding back at the minute? With probably events that are going on, rate changes?
Yeah, so I'd say if you take the current economical market that's been going on, that has made some clients that have maybe wanted to move reconsider, or just say, let's just hold fire for a few months and see what happens with rates and so on. Yes, we are seeing rates come down slightly. We don't know what's going to happen. We've got to keep an eye on what's going on globally for that. However, there's always the clients that need to do something, whether it's due to work, family size, schooling, that need to move. So they're wanting to. The thing is, if you speak to anybody in the industry or outside the industry, the first thing they'll say is how stressful the process is, how long it takes, how difficult it is. And if you really listen to the client who's saying, you never hear the good news stories. It's always, it's taken so long, it was so difficult. It might be that they found the property really quickly, which should be actually the hardest thing. Finding the right property should be the hardest thing. But actually they find that, and then everything else takes longer. And that's what we need to do a bit of change of, is actually, how do we make it that once we've found this property, we can secure it? Because speed is one thing that we talk about loads in the industry, and you'll hear it all the time. Like, how do we make things more speedy? What does the client actually want speed of? They want speed of certainty. That's what they mainly want. They want to know they've got it. Yes, they don't probably want to maybe be looking at a property now to move in 6 months later, because that's very hard to plan around, especially with tenancies and things like that. However, we can do things quicker as an industry, but if we can give clients clear instructions regarding the certainty that things are going to be done, and the things that could cause problems can be done quicker, and give them that certainty, that takes away a lot of the frustrations, the stress levels and so on. And that's what it's actually all about, is getting clients to a point where they feel comfortable and confident in what they're doing.
It benefits everybody. Clients happy, but also brokers happy, conveyancers happy, lenders happy, estate agents happy. There isn't a person in the process that wants it to take
We've kind of got to this industry where it's normal for us to be unhappy with the processes, where actually if we could all be happy.
Is that, well, how do you set the expectation properly? if you don't know everything got the certainty.
Precisely.
There was I'm not going to name names, but at an MAB conference a couple of years ago, I was talking to one of my brokers, and he told his client, here's his solicitor, it's the best of a bad bunch. You're not going to get great services. And so, again, what expectation is that setting?
Definitely.
I'll probably get a message from him if he listens to this.
Just glad it wasn't me.
Saying I recognise it's myself. But we need to get away from that.
Yeah, precisely.
And I could say I keep saying about the groundswell, it feels like the time is now.
It is. And it has to be, because we are so reliant in the UK regarding our house market. Like, the UK housing market has such an impact on our economical system anyway. It's not just the transaction of buying a property and what's involved in that. It's everything that comes after that actually has a huge impact, from removal firms to decorations to construction to furnishings, and then utilities. Like, the outward spread is huge. So making it something where a client feels like it's so difficult, so hard, and like you say, the best of a bad bunch, well, that shouldn't be. And I think there's definitely an area where, the same as in any industry, if there's people that aren't doing it right, they should be held accountable 100%, because there should be also minimum standards regarding service and what needs to be done. And you guys are great at that, but actually, is that an industry standard? Does that make sense? Where you have different regulations to us. Like, if we had the same complaints coming in all the time about service side of things, well, the regulator would be down on us straight away. We need to make sure that, I heard, and it was about lenders completely in a different realm, service can't be a USP anymore. Service is a minimum standard, a minimum requirement.
So you're reading the next question. So as an industry, is there anything we can ask lenders to do differently that may help on the mortgage and conveyancing role?
Yes. Go and look at your guides. When was the last time that lenders actually looked at the guides that they send over to their solicitors, to their legal parties, whether it's their own or externals, regarding what's required from a checks, from an offers, and so on? A lot of these guides have just been added to, like everything, they've just been added to versus amended and updated. Actually, it's a conversation we were having regarding the frustration regarding when we're in a downward rate market and you're getting more and more offers because the client's getting a better rate. Painful frustration. However, currently, in the most part, the lender's rule is that every offer that you get has to be assessed as though you've never seen an offer before from that lender, from start to finish. So it's not just quick, 4.1 section rates changed. It's, we've got to go through it line by line, which brokers...
You've just won a lot of conveyancer friends there.
Yeah. But it's true though. But actually, how do we work with lenders to say, right, if it is just a rate change, can we not just have a addendum letter that says, here's a new offer, but it's just the rate in this section that's changed. Nothing needs. Or actually update the guides regarding what's required and what's needed, and how much of these rules are in there that are so historic that actually aren't required to be checked anymore. And how much of that can be done actually with digital tools and things like that, that actually, if the lender's got information, so deposit. The question is always to the client, you've got a gifted deposit, have you let your lender know? Because we're going to have to let them know. But 9 out of 10 times, the broker's already had to let them know and send the proof in. So actually, how do they literally send a checklist? We know where the deposits come from, confirm it's from these tick boxes.
This is the stuff you need to do. This is the stuff you don't need to do.
Precisely. Because actually, if we did that, then from a conveyancing side of things, you know what you're walking into. Where at the moment, you're having to take every case the same, from start to finish, every single time. So the client, it's like a brand new process for them as well. And that's what takes all this time.
The crazy thing is, like, you look at after the trust budget, and all those applications went in, and the rate started to tumble, and you get some offers, 15 offers for a remortgage, and then the brokers are kicking off because there's additional fees being charged to reassess. And do they expect that work to be done for free? If it's additional work, it's additional work, and the lender could just stop that in a heartbeat. They
could stop that. And I love all of our lender partners, but one of the things I push back on them is the brokers actually then got to contact the lender to ask them to reduce the rate down when they already know they've changed their rates. Like, there's so much more that can be done automated, because at the end of the day, it's the broker is put under a lot of responsibility regarding doing the best thing by the client. That's their whole sole purpose, is to do the best thing by the client. But from a broker's point of view, if you're having to review those, if you've got as a conveyancer 15 offers, the broker's had to potentially rekey it 15 times or speak to the lender 15 times. It's not a 2-second job with all lenders. It, in a lot of cases, can be a 20-30 minute process at least to do that. And if you think of how many clients that they've got in their pipeline any given time, and they're having to do that every week on 40, 50, 100, 150 clients, there's a lot of work for them. Actually, this is where the industry can work a bit better.
To be honest, there was a lot of work for the lender. The knock-on it affects us all.
It does.
And a little bit, and is the issue really about communication and education, that all parties should really have a better understanding of what the other party brings to the table.
Yes, I think communication is the key thing here, first and foremost. Actually, what's everyone's responsibility and job in this, and how, if everyone knows what each person's doing, where are we doubling up? Where can we remove that straight away? Where are the pain points? It's not about passing the buck. It's purely, what are the pain points that we're seeing? And Project 28 does cover a lot of this. And then how can we alleviate? We're not going to get to an area where it's just simple, like completely simple, but if we can remove majority of those pain points at source, then that would make it easier. And then education. And education is across the board. So it's educating each other on what are our requirements. How many brokers know what actually is involved when it hits your desk? And vice versa. Like, we don't actually know that, and we don't know what it looks like when it hits a lender's desk and so on. But then how do we put that education out further? Because where we've been as an industry as well is we're really good at knowing what we each do, and you only know what you know. But then how do we educate our clients and our future clients of the process? Where actually this is how it will look, because it's managing expectations. If you can say to a client, this is what's going to happen, this is where you're going to need to be involved, this is going to be the time frame based on all this, then they know where they stand. Where it's, well, it could take up to 6 months. But
if and also if there's a snag along the way, we're here to help you. So that communication piece gets passed across. So upfront information is massive at the minute in terms of most of the conveyancing meetings you go to talks about upfront information and what you can provide, and we certainly want to be part of that journey. Because it does the more information you can furnish with the client, not just about the process, about the property they're going to buy or the remortgage or whatever, then the better. The faster they get started with it, the better. Because nobody wants these delays. It just makes, on the conveyancing side, it makes it really difficult to be commercially viable.
And that's why I like how you've also been speaking to agents involved in these podcasts too, because actually we know as brokers, the clients, they know the property. How often do they share any problems about the property? Problems are fine. They're only problems when you don't know about them. Actually, if you go in knowing that this property has these elements to it, then everyone can accommodate them and manage expectations. It's when we find things from a lending perspective, from a property perspective, that are problems, they become bigger problems, and you're backtracking, you're trying to find solutions, where if you go in knowing, well, actually, this is the lease, or this is the property type, this is whether any restrictions that have been on there. Because guess what? The person who currently lives in that property, we've had the same things. So let's use the knowledge. There's this whole, if we don't tell anyone, it won't be a problem. The whole point of what you do and what we do is to find everything, to do a full assessment, to make sure that the clients who are buying the property can afford the mortgage and the property is suitable for them and for the lender.
100%,
So if we've got information is gold, knowledge is gold, let's share it with each other. Let's make that an open forum where, taking away kind of the stigma of if I tell them it'll be a problem, not telling us is a problem.
Well, all you're doing is masking it. Somebody's becoming emotionally involved, financially involved because they're paid surveys or whatever.
Completely.
Again, Project 28 is there's a lot of it about that. There's an awful lot also about mindset. And for me, that's the main thing I became involved. There's two things. And first one, I'll ask the question on in a minute, but the mindset was key. It's like just listening to some of the staff and you look at your terms of business and it's saying 14 to 16 weeks and you think, well, why?
Precisely.
So if it says that in the terms of business, are you as a fee earner thinking, I don't need to rush on this?
Completely.
So getting everybody in the, whether it's a conveyancer, whether it's a broker, whether it's an estate agent, saying, look, we're going to do best endeavours to get you ready, legally ready within 4 to 6 weeks, and that will become the norm. If there's anything that's outside of that, we'll all know about it very early in the process, so we can set that expectation. But in order to do that, and this is a bandwagon that I've been on for quite a while, is it's relevant to the conveyancing party only, because we all know what an estate agent earns, and I'm not going to say we all know what a broker earns, but you look at a prop fee. When I was advising, you got a percentage of the mortgage amount, and selling a house, you got a percentage of the selling price, and as house prices have gone up, mortgages have gone up. Therefore, the earnings for both the broker and the agent have gone up, whereas for conveyancing, it's not really. It's certainly not kept pace with inflation even. So, do you think customers understand or value what they need to pay as part of their home buying or even the remortgage process? So, obviously, they're advised about the mortgage advice fees, the agency fees, but what about the legal fees, and then also maybe the survey fees?
Absolutely. So a broker should be going through all that. So it was always like the cost of moving exercise or the cost of remortgage exercise, where you cover off any particular fees, especially legal fees, survey fees, but also things like removal fees. And if it's a first time buyer, do they actually need to put some money aside to actually buy some basic furniture and things like this? So that should be covered off for certain. I think when we're looking at the different fees and so on is like procuration fees, because mortgage sizes have potentially gone up. The broker might be earning more there. But at the same time, we've got clients who are keeping mortgages for longer, like smaller mortgages for longer. So actually, you're doing a lot of work on the small mortgages as well. Yeah. And I think this all comes back down to the time. If everyone was earning the same that they were earning today, but it was taking a third of the time, nobody would mind. It's the fact that it's actually the time has tripled, if not more, and everyone's getting paid the same. And that's where the real friction becomes, because like you say, if you've got something on your desk for 4 to 6 weeks versus saying it's going to be 12 to 14 weeks and actually it could be 20 weeks, that is a costly exercise.
It's not just costly, it also causes capacity issues and things like that, because caseloads just increase.
Precisely.
And as caseloads increase, so does the communication reduces.
Yeah.
So I don't believe it's rocket science in terms of how we change. I don't think we need to have any regulatory changes in terms of the process, because searches aren't the delay. Source of wealth is a bigger delay than the search. Yeah. Start the process for source of wealth earlier. Get the lender to if they've already got the account and they're happy where that money's from, just say, right, if it's 70,000 deposit, for example, we've got 30,000 set in their account, just look at the 40.
Yeah.
And just reduce the amount of work that needs to be done. But I'm passionate about conveyancing fees and believe that they are too low. And for 2 years I've been shouting that they need to go up, to go up. And we've internally started an enhanced product where you pay a little bit more, and the initial feedback is staggering. The difference is humongous, because the fee earners doing those cases have got a lower caseload and they've actually got time to do the job. Communications improved massively, and you know what? The timescales have come down as well.
And there is something regarding you pay for what you get. I think we have to be really careful about a Robin Hood effect, and I talk about this in every part of the industry, where the rich can do things, the ones who can afford it get a certain level of service, and the ones who are first-time buyer, who are trying to find a deposit, trying to pay stamp duty, because in all of this, the client is spending more money. So yes, agents might get a higher property price, so it might be a bigger number at the end of it, but the client at the end of the day is the one who's paying for all this, and then the ones that are feeling the frustration. So we've got to get that balance right. Kind of goes back to that comment earlier regarding service being a USP is actually, if what of the processes today. So when I work with all the lenders, I question them on everything regarding from what questions do they ask in their fact finds, their AIPs, their full mortgage applications. what documents do they request and what underwriter checks do they do, and what of those actually impact the outcome of that client being able to borrow the money. If it's not impacting it, why do we need to ask it? Why do the underwriter need to look at it if it's not going to make a decision for them?
Yeah.
And this is where COVID potentially did help us, where we actually saw lenders on a much bigger scale doing desktop valuations, automatic valuations, the AVMs. And then you've also got lenders playing in open banking all of a sudden, but themselves, not together, and not in collaboration with anybody else in the industry. So you've got certain lenders that are going, right, we're going to do open banking so we can do the income checks, we can do the debt to income ratios, we can check their liabilities, and we can also check their mortgage funds. So for the deposit. So they're doing this themselves to save them, they're humans doing it, which is great.
As long as you pass it on.
As long as you pass it on. And that's where, going back to the beginning, is in with Project 28, bringing everyone together. And actually, yes, people go off and test things and so on, but if it works, share it. Why do we get so precious that, well, we've got something really good that works here, but we're not going to tell anybody else about it? Yeah. Because that's not fair either. And I think when it comes to fees, I think like with anything, like you go to the shop and you buy any food range, you've got 3 different levels from the meat you buy, the chocolate you buy if you're me, to the cordials you buy and so on. Whether it's organic, whether it's the taste of difference, all this side of things. If you know what I mean, you do have that. And they choose, but the service. Do
you really want the value beans? And then you can't have the value beans and then moan that they taste like bullets, so can you?
You can't. However, there has to be a minimum level of service, and we talk about communication. Communication is where things break down the most in the transactions and in the processes across the board. And this isn't yourselves, but I might lose some of my conveyancing friends that I made a minute ago, is how often is the conveyancer go, we won't speak to your broker? Well, we're trying to do the heavy lifting to take the frustration away from the clients, but they won't speak to us.
Yeah,
or
it's nuts.
Like,
it's absolute nuts.
Like having those communication tools where you can speak online, because actually what you don't want is us ringing you every 10 minutes. Have you got this yet? Have you done this yet? Yeah. No one wants that. No one wants to be picking up the phone to people anymore, really, to do that. You want to have to pick up the phone when there's something really important going on. And actually, if there is a snag on a case, can we bring the broker, the lender, the conveyancer on a call? What's the impact? Can we find solutions together versus it goes to the client has a meltdown, comes back into the broker, who has to inform the lender to try and find a solution, inform the agent who tells the vendor, so they stop wobbling, do we start remarketing the property? We've caused all this, but actually, with this amazing thing now that's like Teams calls and Zoom calls and things like this, can we not just go on a call and go, property this, could we look at it together?
I don't disagree, I don't fully agree, because obviously we're in a market now where people want instant answers.
Yeah.
And if you start going down that route completely, do they just expect all the time to get an instant answer? And then do they become a bit of a nuisance because
Precisely.
Oh, it didn't work last time, I'll just go and they become the pester and
completely.
But the flip of that is, if you don't communicate from the conveyancing side of it, all you're going to do is open the door up to all parties, the client, the agent, the broker, all coming at you and saying, what's the latest, we need an update.
Definitely.
And
like you
but again, that's where the expectation at the start should be set.
Should be managed. And that's the thing is especially like if you say, like, if we could say it's like 4 to 6 weeks, well then, if we're saying that, we've got to have it. So going back to one of the biggest time things you're saying is the proof of funds, the proof of wealth. Well, right. So the broker is probably the key connection to everything. So if we, for example, had an open banking that we were doing that did the checks for us, and then we sent on, this is who we've used to do our own banking, to do the checks. So you can tick off the lender, at the conveyancer and at the agent.
Yeah.
The broker controls it, because then they're speaking to all parties, because they speak to all parties anyway. Then actually, if everyone can be on board that actually, say for example, Mab, we're using this company for this, everyone agrees with our parties that we're working with, from our lender arms to our conveyancing arm, and we send it on to the agents. The client's only got to send it to one person who does those checks. So
yes,
because
does the agent have to do it right at the very start, in terms of, obviously they can't accept an offer until
they should be accepting an offer until they've got an agreement principle either. So technically the brokers had to do the agreement principle and do the check of funds before the client should be putting the offer in. So the broker can actually be that person, because at point of offer, It's the client is saying, this is my broker, there's my agreement principal, and they'll share with you our proof of funds. Then it is controlled by somebody who has got the financial background, they've got the qualifications to be able to do those funds checks, and they're also the ability that they, agent and lender don't talk, and so on. The person that talks to everybody.
I think you've just added 1 million happy conveyancers to your friends list, because if you can take source of wealth away from conveyancers, they would absolutely love it. I think the problem or the hurdle to get over there is the provenance of that information.
Yes.
Is can you trust it?
Precisely.
If it's trusted information, then you're absolutely.
And that would be a big time saver for everybody, because actually, from a time, from a costing, from everything, that's the hardest thing.
Yeah. And
you'd also get things progressing quickly. Because how often do we get to a point where you've finally got the offer because it's been in maybe a complicated case, you can finally get the offer out, and it's like, actually, now we've got to go back on funds. And it goes back, and lenders are at capacity, so it goes into a 10-day waiting, and then you have to get exceptions, and it becomes a mess.
Yeah. Moving on a little bit.
Yeah.
I mentioned fees. Something a little bit topical in the press of late is that of referral fees.
Oh, yes.
I'm interested in what your views are on referral fees.
Yeah, so this came down from the regulator regarding obviously the transparency of referral fees, and what it's kind of pretty much saying that, if I put it into simple terms, is should somebody be getting a referral fee just for passing a client's name and number over, which is pretty much what happens in a lot of these cases. At MAB, we are really looking into as a bigger piece, because we work really closely with our partners. So what we want to make sure is actually by controlling the process, so by controlling the lender that's used, the conveyancer that's used, the surveyor that's used, and so on, we can keep that open line of communication. We can take the heavy lifting from the client. The client didn't want to go off to 10 different people to speak about the same thing. So if I put a broker hat back on, obviously we want referral fees, but actually, for example, if we were to say to the regulator, right, we're doing the open banking, so we're going to send the proof of wealth over to the conveyancer, we're going to do this, we're going to share the property details, everything we send to the lender regarding the property and that could impact it is also going to get shared over. Because why do we've got to send all these property details to the lender, but we don't send anything to the conveyancer? Well, actually, why can't that just be sent to everybody? Give them that information and sharing that communication. Then I believe there is an area for referral fees. Referring something just for passing over a name and number, that's where it becomes questionable.
And again, don't disagree with that one bit. And as a panel manager, we're the problem, really. We're the ones that are facilitating these fees. Yeah. I don't view it that for just being a panel manager where you've got a quoting system where you can come on, do the quotation, instruct it, and then bank the money for it. That's not at all what we're about. Is you've got to start adding more value to the broker, more value to the agent, also more value, making it a better journey for the client. I think again, this is where evolution is needed for the whole industry.
Precisely.
And have everybody working together, because some of the things that you've said there is absolutely some of the things that we're doing as a panel manager, because it will speed it up. It'll just make it so much better for the client. So whether we see them taken away, whether there's a ban on them, I don't believe that will be the case, but almost certainly I'd be a big advocate for them being capped.
Absolutely. I think this is where Project 28 can play a really big part in this as well, because collaborating with all departments, showing the value in this, because actually try to move everything in there. So if you've got a panel, so for example, of that, if with MAB, we're using yourselves, for example, and we have the confidence and the knowledge that this is going to be the process, this is how it's going to work. Mrs. Smith up the road, who's an independent conveyancer, might not be on board with, might not have agreed to any of this, might not want to work that way. So does it become this is how every conveyancer works in the UK, which is very, very hard to make happen? Or is it because actually you can have that confidence? Because that's why a lot of referrals started, was actually, I know if I've used you for my clients, I can really annoy you to make sure it goes through. We have an element of control, because you want that. If you're going to refer it, because it's reputation at the end of the day. It goes back to who owns a client. Well, if you've gone out and generated that lead and brought that client in, and then you recommend this lender, you recommend this conveyancer, you recommend that surveyor, well, the client's going to come back to you if there's a problem.
Yeah.
Regardless of which department it's in. Yeah. It always does. Yeah. So I think that's where it's showing the value in having those links that then the regulator could get more comfortable with. But I think it is one of those where the resolution, regardless of how it looks, and I do hope they are kept from a broker's perspective and so on, and like you say, you're on the same boat with that, is actually from an industry the benefit of it. Because at the moment, whilst everyone's in silos, that's where they're going, what is the benefit? Yeah.
You've got to be able to prove that you're adding some value to it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what is the point? I think with the education bit on who is responsible, we've probably covered that off. Is it? The question was: is it with the agent? Is it with the broker or the conveyancer? I think it's everybody. It's everybody,
and everybody be on the same page, because what you don't want is contradictions, and that's where maybe we've fallen down the past.
Yeah, agents telling the client, use our conveyancer and they'll have you completed in 4 weeks, when it's really complicatedly sold flat. It's ludicrous.
And I think this is probably where the referral fee questions have come up is we've all seen there's been some documentaries out there regarding,
yes indeed,
where things
overdue pressure because of,
and that's the difference, is that's what can't be done. That's what's brought a lot of the attention to this, is actually no company should be pressurizing a client into do something to be able to view that property or to buy that property. That's completely a no. However, showing the rest of it and working in collaboration, which is what we're now doing, shows how it works.
We've got to move on. Time. I've been told I need to get through all of these questions. There's quite a few to go still yet, but a lot of conveyancers still offer no completion, no fee guarantee. Again, I've got my own views on that, and most of my panel firm will know what that is. But from a broker's perspective, what do you think to no completion, no fee for conveyancing?
Right. So I think if we could get to a point where a lot of the snags, a lot of the problems, and the certainty could be removed at the point of putting an offer in our property, clients would be happy to pay a fee up front. It's the uncertainty that pretty much you could be 8-12 weeks into a process before you know it's suitable for your lender. It's all these where actually this is when we can start going into like land registry searches and how problematic getting that information is and getting building regs, etc. Actually,
again, it's what we're doing as panel manager. We're trying to get the land reg bit at the very start.
Precisely. So actually, it's that speed of certainty. If a client knows that actually they're paying, but they've got the certainty and they're comfortable and confident that they can proceed, they've got no issue with that. It's at the moment they're going in and going, I really love the house. Can I buy it?
So again, that's not something you could just do away with overnight.
No.
It's a transition.
Yeah.
Do you therefore need to have a dual pricing model with conveyancing where, if you can, if we're going to give you all this information at the very start and all that work's going to be done, then there is a little bit of an upfront fee to pay. And you don't get that back if it falls through. Is that something a broker could work with?
I think so, because then you could actually remove the fall through rate as well. Because actually, how many times did it fall through because the property is no longer suitable for the lender? Well, actually, if we know that at the point of which lender we're going to and applying, then that risk is removed. If we can get to the point where anything from a building regs point of view, well, that it's been signed off, that extension was done correctly and so on before you put the offer in, then you've got the confidence. That's absolutely fine. I think there's a lot where this is where, so with anything from a technical and an AI point of view, it's data. All this data exists on every property, but it's hidden in 20 different departments, whether it's the land registry, whether it's the vendor's mind, even the previous solicitor. Like, how often do you as a vendor say, I don't know, but my last solicitor who did it would have asked that question? Well, why don't we have a file on a property?
So talking property logbooks, you're just extending this conversation further and further. I think the next one we probably answered was, what's the biggest point of friction between conveyancers, agents and brokers, and how do you think everyone collaborates more? I mean, we all know we need to collaborate more.
Yeah.
And communication is probably the biggest point of friction, I'm guessing.
It is, completely.
Has been for 20
forever.
years.
And it's not about passing blame. It's talking openly and honestly about the pain points, about the frictions, and actually how together we can find solutions that work for everybody.
Yeah. Now, you've mentioned it more than me. I'm actually the director of Project 28, and I've been asked by a few panel members, is it worth us joining as members? And for me, it's an absolute yes. Yeah. We're parts of other associations that we pay money to. And this, for me, is probably the one that's, together with other people, it's not, it's Project 28, there's a couple of others that are also trying to do it, but it's this mindset. The 28 was given the name 28 days.
Yes.
Question is this driving any part of your role at MAB? I think you've probably answered that. Mostly that 100% it is.
Definitely.
And the MAB part comes more from the lender side of it. What sway can you put on the lenders in terms of, you need to really change the handbook for this part or that part or whatever?
Yeah, so MAB has really got involved with Project 28. We have different people working it from different areas where we specialise in, because it's really important that you have the right people looking at the right areas. So from lender's point of view, definitely, what are they doing with Project 28? How involved in it are they? And actually, I think it's like anything. When you reverse, I'm all about reverse math. So if you say to a lender, actually, by doing this, your capacity, because if they've got all these offers that haven't completed yet, they struggle with their next line of funding. Actually, by doing all these things, working in collaboration and working together to make this a better process for every client, the same resources that you have to stretch out, so does lender.
Yeah.
It just makes sense for them. And it is asking those questions, because a lot of people, when we say, why do we do this? And literally, I'm a 3-year-old, it's my job, is to ask why all the time, and I love it. But when you say, why do you ask for that? We always have.
Yeah.
So
Does
why?
that make it right?
Why do we do that? Is it actually a necessity? Is it making a difference? And that's what you start doing but it's actually having the time, because there's always stuff going on in our industry. There's always stuff going on in the market. It's always busy. It's always demanding. There's always something trying to throw a curveball. Actually having the people to just go, we need to take this and look at it from start to finish and own it. And ownership's really important. If you're going to work a project like this, you've got to own it from start to finish, be accountable, be responsible, and actually see it throughout versus...
The beauty is it's not just lender driven, it's cross-party.
Completely.
Cross-industry driven, and I think it's exciting. It's the thing that's keeping me really motivated at the minute, because add that into what we're doing with the slightly increased fees, and look at the difference in service. All we're getting is happy clients and happy everybody.
Definitely.
I think there's a big push needed for the industry, because what you need there is the mass. You get mass penetration with it, and and more people thinking that way. Others will have to follow, or they'll die. And
that's the thing, and this then opens probably for a different conversation, but it would be rude for me not to put in there. We all saw the HIPS pack try to happen a long time ago, but we are seeing a lot more conversations happening regarding vendor packs and actually getting that right. Because actually, why should a property come to the market without us knowing this information? If we could get that, we see it in other parts of the country, it works really, really well. Actually, why couldn't we do something where, going back to that certainty, you know what you're doing, client knows what they're doing, lender knows what they're doing, broker knows what they're doing. Actually, there is a lot, and I know it's something that's been worked on in that group too, is that actually could make everything a lot easier, a lot speedier and so on, without having to actually cost the client. Because with everything, I know...
Minimal cost to the client.
Yeah.
You can't do it.
But minimal increased cost, because they are prepared to pay a cost.
Probably some of it is up front, rather than it all be back end.
Precisely. It's the same as if you think of a flight. You pay for economy, so you know you're going to have slightly less reg room and so on, and the food will be different. You pay for business class, you'll get something different and so on. Are we going to make buying a property the same? That, are you economy client, business class client, or first class client? Is that right? Is probably the question where I might lose some friends on that one, but that's how you've got to look at it. Yeah.
But are you saying you need Ryanair pricing, and then you need I know.
Precisely. So why can't we all be an Emirates?
You can. but yeah, you pay for it, and that's the overriding thing with me with the Project 28 is you need to just that cost needs to go up a little bit to be able to deliver it.
It does, as long as it's all delivered, because you've already demonstrated that a solicitor that is charging a higher fee is offering a better service. Yeah. That shouldn't. There's going to be some reflection because maybe they don't need as many cases. There's lots of questions around that, but actually, there is a choice there for a client as well. But sometimes the clients don't have the choice because they don't have the resources. So actually, if we are making it a 4 to 6 week process, like everything, costs go up all the time, and we get that. So I'm not saying costs shouldn't go up at all, but should go up in relevance to actually the time that's being spent on the case. Not how long the case is taken, the time that's been spent on the case maybe.
Right.
And that is something maybe to look at, because a case might sit there for 20 weeks, but if the client's saying we can't get hold of anybody.
But it could be a first time buyer that's buying a relatively low price property where it's a nightmare title. It needs a lot of unravelling.
But we get that at the upfront bit. If we get that up front, the clients are already committed. They've already spent the money. They've already fallen in love.
So again, it needs that upfront
totally.
pricing, but more for the vendor probably than the
absolutely
buyer.
Yeah.
Right, I have some quick fire questions I've got to ask you because people are waving at us and saying we're talking way too much. What's the biggest myth about mortgage brokers?
Oh gosh, biggest myth. I don't know if I could even answer that one. What I will say about mortgage brokers is they're always trying to do the best by the clients. They are the default to the clients. So the biggest myth is it's always the broker's fault, and the brokers are always to blame. And it's a complete myth.
What is one thing buyers should always do before they even think about buying a house?
Speak to a mortgage broker.
What, to check the finances, you mean? Or
just to actually go through, know what the whole process is. Get quotes. We talked about cost of moving right at the beginning. Know what costs are going to be involved. Manage expectations on time scales. And more importantly, know they can actually borrow the amount that they need to, and they can afford the monthly payments on it.
I can't argue. I was a broker for 25 years, so I don't disagree with that.
Yay.
What's one word you'd use to describe the industry at the minute?
Frustrated.
What's going to matter more in the next 12 months in the industry, speed or transparency?
Speed of certainty.
So not speed, just speed of certainty.
Yeah.
And one piece of advice for somebody joining the industry as a career?
Get to know the whole process and everything that's involved. Educate yourself and know that it is forever changing, and that it will be challenging. It will also be very, very rewarding, but you are dealing with real clients, and that there is going to be a lot of emotions involved in it.
I've got one word that I always use with that answer, and I think you've got to care.
That's a given.
And I think if we all cared that little bit more, and it's we're not talking huge. Nobody goes out to do a bad job.
No, not at all.
But if we had that little bit of care and just think, right, if it was me, how would I be feeling if I was sat that other side? Then we'd probably see it improve.
Absolutely.
Well, that's everything. I've actually gone through the questions without people pointing too many fingers at me, but I think as a summary there, and thanks massively for taking part today. Is there's a lot to change. Yeah. But it's not a lot, if that makes sense.
It's all possible.
We all know what we need to do. And if all parties just start and do that collaboration and bring in information at the start, somebody's banging at us now. Let's come across. Is if we can get it all up front at the start, it's the certainty bit that everybody's screaming out for.
Definitely.
And if we can deliver that, I don't think there's an awful lot to change from a regulation point of view or a process point of view.
It's working together.
Yeah.
Completely.
Brilliant. Well, the agent said that on the podcast. You've said it. So let's get the industry doing it.
Amazing. Let's do it.
Rach, thanks a lot for today.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you have any questions or feedback, feel free to let us know in the comments below. See you again soon.